Hi, buddy. Jeff here. I just saw a post up on LinkedIn yesterday, and one about the idea of localization or translation, cultural translation, or local translation, localization of content, right, into specific dialects. I'll say that, okay, to kind of make it that way, um, and cultural variants. What do you want to call these things? And so I want to answer the question. Some of because I said I've done both. I've done it where you've done it, in where you make multiple websites for each of the dialects of a given language, right? So it's really totally localized into like 20 of them, right? 20 dialects of a single language of a website, right? I'm gonna say 15 to 20. I'm not. I'm be kind of bit vague here about the exact number. For confidentiality. I don't want to bring up any specific things. I'm just saying this is I've dealt with this before. Um, and then there's the other one where you go to like a universal Spanish, right? So we can say Latin Spanish, okay? Latin America, but then English, you just think, hey, most of the time we just talk about it. Is it U.S. English or British English? It's kind of a general thing because really British English covers a lot of the Commonwealth, right? So, um, and and so we'll sometimes use those two different variants. But then you'll sometimes say we want Jamaican English. I mean, I've seen jobs for specific Jamaican English, right? Not very many. Those are few and far between. But so this dichotomy, this kind of thing of do you do and I'll call the second one a vanilla a vanilla language version, right? Because you're trying to make a standardized form of some dialect, right? So the question is, you know, should we go into making 20 different websites for 20 no, different websites, different localized or translated websites for each of the 20 dialects of a given language? Or do we try to focus on having a single, you know, universal dialect, or a universal language, if we want to call this, to cover a bunch of different dialects, which is actually what we do in speech, right? We actually do this in speech because really all your sounds are all um, that's the difference in phonetics and phonology. Phonetics is actual surface level different sounds, and then phonology is actually standardizing and harmonizing those sounds, or how we do it naturally in towns, cities, countries, into an overreaching spectrum of a few sounds that correspond to and orthography, so writing systems, what letters correspond to a lot of different ranges of that sound, right? It's what we do, right? In language in general, especially written language, compared to written language. So now we're going to get to the websites, which is written language, right? And sometimes now, so even spelling like color versus color, right? Or OUR or 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 um, the whether to use a internationalization with an S or a Z, right, or Z. These are specific terminology questions, but really it comes down to is it's the same phonetics, the same pronunciation. It's just from written, right, from a history of each of those different dialects. So should we standardize it and try to make it all one, or should we sell it to do 20 different dialects? And so, what are the challenges? So, I think it was Esther who had asked me which had the challenges. And they both had challenges, right? Because the biggest challenge for your doing 15 or 20 different websites with different terminology. And this, you don't usually do this on like just low budget stuff. This is kind of high budget products, right, or services. I mean, it's got to be more in the luxury level stuff, right? Because people want to have to pay for that, right? You got to get the budget for it, and you got to do the terminological research of it, right? And then you got to do some samples. I mean, it takes a bit of time to do this, and time equals money, right? Hours of work. And so you got to charge it by the hour. This kind of stuff. You don't charge it by the word, right? You don't charge it by the word price per word. This kind of thing. They're difficult to justify. You got to charge it by hour for each of the dialects. Localization, right? So that's a challenge, is getting the budget for it and to convince the customer to do this. And you got to convince the customer it's not just the customer. It's got to be some local marketing person, or maybe a localization person. Usually a marketing person, or a CFO, or somebody, or a CIO, or whatever, to do it into multiple languages, right? Usually marketing people, because you hit different local markets, right? So it's going to be marketing people. You're lucky if you're going to talk to the localization people, but then you got to help them pitch it to their management to get all this money for all these websites or products or what you want into all these different versions. It'd probably usually websites. You're probably not going to get multiple localized versions of software or documentation, right? But websites you will, because it's marketing, it's online marketing, it's online stuff for local groups, right? So local communities. Yeah, I can see this for hotels and commerce and e-commerce and stuff and all that. I mean, tourism, hotel tourism, travel, right? So because that's where you're gonna have people traveling and doing, or you could have it for specific products, that have a lot of different local markets. But so that's where you could have it for that one. Um, so the challenge there is getting the stuff right. It's getting it.